The most watched In the Hangar we've ever had left some of you with questions. We're going to get those answered today in the hangar. Hello and welcome to this episode of In the Hangar. It's a special one. We're on location at AirVenture at the Flying Eyes booth. We've got planes flying overhead. We have a B-17 and a B-25.
B-25 Mitchell.
A B-25 Mitchell. And I'm Dan Milliken.
I'm Christy Wong. Our sponsor today is Flying Eyes Optics. If you come by the tent, then you can get 10% off if you give them our discount code, Taking Off.
And we're also sponsored by Colton Mortgage. If you need a residential mortgage or refinance, Colton Mortgage is run by a pilot just like us. So let's support our aviation community. Go to coltontakingoff.com and also Marshall Protection Service. Nick Olson over there, big supporter of the channel. We love our sponsors.
All right. Well, today we've got somebody really special that's actually coming back.
Coming back to the In the Hangar. You had to come all the way from far away to get to Wisconsin because you're in Minnesota. Dan Bass.
That's right. Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, we had some burning questions after the last time we had you on. So we figured we'd just catch up and see how you've been doing the last couple of years. Well,
and to recap for those who, you can go watch the original episode. We'll put a card up here where you can click it and go watch it. But to summarize, let's real quick, the elevator 2-minute version of what happened to you. It's absolutely phenomenal.
All right. Do I talk really fast to get 2 minutes in, or do I just... So I had a business trip, and this was 5 years ago now in 2017, and I had a cracked muffler underneath my heater shroud, and I didn't know it. And I went throughout the day, and as every flight, my carbon dioxide levels have built up. And the third flight, I lost consciousness, flew for an hour and a half, and woke up in a field. And
amazingly,
Incredible.
The Mooney landed itself, and that leads to the first question that we didn't really cover in our 44-minute video that we did, is how in the world did the Mooney land itself?
Well, the Mooney, any airplane would do it. I had the airplane trimmed in the climb for my cruise climb. I think I was kind of impaired when I was doing it, but it was around 105 knots or 120 miles an hour. And then I lost consciousness. So I had the autopilot tracking the heading bug, and the trim was set for that angle of attack that was yielding 105 knots. And then it climbed up, and as I climbed, the less and less air to produce power for the engine. It was a normally aspirated Mooney. And up around 12,000 feet is where it couldn't climb anymore. And then it just flew along at 105 knots. And then it ran out of gas. And then with the reduction of power, it came down at 105 knots. And then ended up in the field.
Yeah, I'm just flabbergasted because you say just like almost any plane. I can't imagine that if we just fuel starve a plane, let it go, it'll get us safely to the ground.
Well, that's another story, right? But
right.
The airplane was just flying its angle of attack that it was trimmed for. And that's
so
all
slightly
they do.
nose up or something, and
yeah, it would have been a slightly nose up a little bit.
It came out and it just.
And it would have changed its angle of attack. So after it ran out of gas, it would have pitched down, but that same angle of attack would have yielded all the way to the ground.
And it kept up. It didn't stall. That's just amazing to me. It glided itself down.
Yeah, and then any airplane would do it. And that's why I was actually fortunate. It wouldn't necessarily live, but it would perform the same in the air.
See, I don't know if a 210 could do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Not if Dan's in there.
Yeah.
No, but it's just the way, when you're doing your IFR rating and you're learning about constant airspeeds, climbs and descents.
Yeah, and dynamic stability. These planes are made to do that. It's just still okay. So then take us through.
So where I was really fortunate was that I lost consciousness in the climb. So if I would have been in cruise, that autopilot had altitude hold, but it didn't have any electric trim. So if I lost consciousness in cruise, I would have been at a higher airspeed, and it would have tried to fly at that trim airspeed after the autopilot said, I can't hold it anymore.
And then the autopilot would have shut down.
Much faster.
And it would lawn dart.
Down.
Yeah,
okay.
That's actually very fortunate when you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, then how do you... Take us through how you think the aircraft landed.
Well, the way the field was shaped, it was a real short. It was about 800 feet length on my path. And the way the field was shaped, in the middle of that field, or about 200 feet, 300 feet in, was a divot. I mean, it was a real pronounced downslope. It was the bottom of the field. So when you're standing there versus where my airplane was, you probably have like a 50-foot rise maybe. And my airplane hit right at that divot, or maybe just a little bit before, where the angle I was traveling, meeting the ground, was shallow enough that I didn't get killed. If I would have ran out of gas a second or a half a second early or later, I would have been meeting the ground at that uphill, and I think that it would have been much more violent.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking like lottery odds.
Oh, absolutely.
How many lotto tickets have you purchased?
Not one. No,
Okay.
because I used everything up.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Truly, truly a miraculous thing. One of the questions, how are you doing since 2017? What kind of psychological and physiological impact did this event take on you?
Well, the psychological impact, you have to ask my wife, not me. I have no idea. I think I'm fine. I was really fortunate that I was unconscious because I didn't have any sort of what do they call it when you have a post-traumatic stress? That didn't exist because I woke up and all the violent stuff was done.
Right.
So I didn't really have that to deal with. And then what was the other? That was the psychological and
the physiological.
yeah. I have a little bit of numbing in my hands from the frostbite. I'm missing some teeth still. I got to decide if I want to do anything about that. But other than that, nothing. My back healed. I'm doing really well.
All right, good.
Sounds like a hockey player.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that.
Tingly fingers, missing teeth, no problem.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Hockey players, plane crash survivors.
But I was really
Basically.
fortunate. So when I was at the Mayo Clinic, they said I needed to get in hyperbaric chamber because of the CO, and that's a way to purge it out of your body. So I did 3 episodes in there, and they didn't, at the Mayo Clinic, they don't deal with burns. So I was really worried about my hands because they just told me, you're not going to have feeling in your fingers ever again. And I was really concerned about that. And then it turned out that I believe the hyperbaric treatments for the CO help my hands.
On the frostbite.
And I mean, I can tell, if I think about it, I can tell they're numb, but it's 90%. It's fine.
So you pick up the hot plate and
Well, I
can't
can
feel
say,
it?
yeah.
Or,
Well, no, it's not that bad. I mean, it's like
Okay,
90%.
okay.
I can just kind of feel.
Oh, that's warm.
And when I go swimming or I'm in the cold, I don't have much time before my hands, they'll go
Hurt.
completely numb. They'll turn white and go numb.
wow.
But it's not bad.
Okay, we ended the episode a little early, too.
After 44
minutes.
Yep.
And we didn't cover one of the, of course, this crash has driven you to do some things, and one of them is the importance of having survival things within reach for pilots. Take us through what you've done and the journey you've taken on that, and why.
Right. So the first thing, if you watch the video, I talked a little bit about the struggle to get out of the airplane and the struggle to find things. And I thought I was really well prepared. In no way I was. I mean, before I took off, I had everything lined up on my passenger seat. I had everything organized. I had my headlamp. Everything was within reach and easy. But the violence of the airplane crash itself moved everything around. And there was certain items we never found. And so that's when I decided, I've talked, well, I know military pilots, they wear flight suits. And in the flight suits, they keep survival equipment. So whatever happens, they have that equipment with them. So I decided to wear a flight vest. And I bought a Scotty vest, I believe is the brand. And it's a really neat company on what they make. They make all sorts of clothing and stuff. They'll make dresses, and they have all these hidden pockets. But anyway, so I bought a vest from them because I thought it looked more normal. So when I get out of the plane, I don't look like I'm on a fishing trip, And I used that vest for a while, but it actually, because of the hidden pockets and the way it worked, it was really difficult to get things in and out. So I purchased another vest. It's more of an outdoor, it's not a straight fishing vest, but it's from Duluth Trading Company, I believe. And it's got a mesh back, and that's got a lot more accessible pockets. And I just keep that in the plane. So when I get in the plane, I put that on, and when I get out, I just leave it there. But I have various items in that vest that would help if I'm down. And like my cell phone always goes in my pocket. I have a signal whistle, and I have a mirror, and I have other items, like there's a flashlight in there.
Yeah, see, all these things that you would never really think about in terms of that, unless you've been
Or you
through that
think
experience.
about it and you've got it in your flight bag.
In the
What
flight
you
bag.
don't think about is how far away that flight bag will be if you're strapped in.
Right. At the
Right.
beginning of my accident, I was trapped in my plane, and I couldn't reach anything. And earlier, years ago, we did a Bahamas trip, and I bought a PLB back then, and that PLB had a strobe on the top, and but the battery had expired. It was years old, and I got rid of it. But if I had that, I would have been able to pop the PLB. The strobe would have went off. I could have held it out the window, and the helicopter that was looking would have saw me and pulled me out, and life would have been fine. Well, I wouldn't say fine, but life would have been better. So then, on top of that, I have a PLB mounted to my shoulder harness. So that's always right there. It's not on me, but it's on the shoulder harness.
And just for those who don't know what a PLB,
Oh, personal locator beacon. So it's a 406 megahertz. It's just like an ELT, but there's different versions, but mine you have to set off yourself. But it's right there. If I'm trapped in the plane, I can get that on. And then right next to that, I got a really nice flashlight with a strobe there too. So I have 2 flashlights that I'm always going to have. Another thing I've done is I put my handheld radio and I mounted that on the wall next to my leg. And I make sure it's always charged up. And the only reason I have that is to talk to someone if there's an accident. It's not for a comm failure or anything like that, because that really isn't an emergency. No matter what airspace you're in, you can get by without a comm. But I have that set to 121.5, and it's sitting right there all the time.
all right. So what about CO detectors, and what do you recommend that people get?
Well, there's I actually have switched. It sounds like I'm selling them. I think you should have 2, because you never know when one fails, and if it fails, you don't know if you're going to know it.
Yeah, redundancy in airplanes is never a bad
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Two engines are good. Two.
Did you get a second engine with the Mooney?
No, I wish. No, and it was funny. After I had my crash, I was looking at my next airplane, and I have a growing family, and I'm like, we're going to need something bigger. And I was going to get a Baron.
I was going to say a Baron is a good airplane.
And anyway, I wasn't multi-rated, and so I called the school that had the Baron, and it just went down for maintenance. And I was like, I won't be back online for 2 months. And then I had some time to think about it, and I came back to the Mooney airframe just because it's such a good airplane, and I'm so comfortable in it. But anyway, I recommend 2 carbon monoxide detectors if you can, and like I have a panel mount Guardian unit in my airplane. I believe there's other panel mount units that are available now in the last couple of years. So that's always good. They're always on. We kind of went over that, I think, in the last video. And then I have a sensor con, or several sensor cons, and I just happened to fall in line with those guys because of what happened in the forums after my accident, and they offered us a discount, and they've been great to work with. So they make an AV, I think it's AV8. AV8 is their aviation version. It comes with a little mount. You can
I think that's a new one, yeah.
Yeah, and you can click the mount on your panel and just lock it in. That's a nice unit. But really, any digital carbon monoxide detector that's not
Not the chiclet.
Yeah, not the card.
Not the chiclet for sure. Those shouldn't even be around. And then the home detectors. I mean, if you're really, really cheap, it's a way to have something that I didn't, and it'd probably work. But it's a catastrophic alarm only at that point, because they have the UL listing suppresses their alarm rate basically to avoid false positives in home use.
How do you feel about those Sentries that have the built-in carbon monoxide?
I think
goes
that's
to full
great.
flight?
Like, that's one of the 2, right? I think if you have one of those, you should
Okay.
have another one, a sensor con or panel mount or whatever.
Okay.
Let's talk numbers for a minute. What is dangerous levels? I mean, because like I bought one CO detector and it drove me crazy because it went off at 10 parts per million.
Right.
And that's, am I wrong? That's really not that much.
That's not that much, but if you're 10 parts per million the entire flight, and it's operating correctly, there's something going on with
Right.
the airplane. So,
Right. But no, this
But
would
in
just
terms of
come up,
alarms, yeah, I think an alarm. I keep mine set at 35.
Okay.
But so it usually doesn't go off. But I'll glance at it in the run-up area, and it might be at 22 or something.
Right.
But I'm always zero in cruise. I'm zero with my airplane. It's easy to have zero anytime in flight. If I'm moving forward, it's 0. So alarm-wise, if if you're getting 35 parts per million in cruise, like you have a problem, it might be worth stopping and trying to figure out what it is before you continue on. But if you got to fly a few hours to get home and you know it's not going to compromise the airplane mechanically, it's probably safe to do.
All right. So, any last words that you would say, Dan, to all the aviators out there about what they should do?
Well, I think you really should fly with a carbon monoxide detector. Hopefully 2 eventually, but at least get 1 and use it during your pre-flights too. You have is your fuel injected or do you have carbureted?
I have a carbureted.
Carbureted. So like you always check carb heat when you're doing the run up. Check the heater too and see what the carbon monoxide detector does every flight. And what's nice about it too is if you find something wrong with one of these new detectors, it might be 6 months before it would be any sort of a problem to you or the airplane, but you're ready to like figure out when you're going to fix it or how to fix it. And that's, mine, I might have been able to fix my crack 6 months before and I just didn't know it was there. But get a carbon monoxide detector and be aware of it, use it, and it's like running out of gas. Just don't run out of gas.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
just don't suck.
Just
just don't suck. But and go out and fly and have fun. But unfortunately, my accident should have been the last, and there's been I forget now, but it's in the 20 to 30 fatality range since my accident in aviation. So we got to keep talking about it. Talk about it around the airport. It's pretty amazing. That video has a lot of views.
Yeah.
And I've ran into 50 people here that never heard the story just yesterday.
Wow.
So talk about it with other pilots and spread the word that way.
Awareness.
And make it one more thing we don't have to worry about.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and catching up with us.
Thanks for
It's always
having me.
good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
All right, you guys, if you like what you see, please like, subscribe, share. We're always happy to get your guys' comments and stuff on our videos. And if you're here at AirVenture, stop by the Flying Eyes booth. Come say hi. Come get your sunglasses and get 10% off by using our discount code.
And check out Colton Mortgage, Colton Taking Off, and Marshall Protective Services. Again, all our sponsors are pilots, and they're good guys. They're the kind you hang out with. Let's all support our aviation family, and we appreciate you guys supporting us, and we'll see you guys next time.
In the hangar.